This is the case of Martha McKay. If you want to know more about this case, please continue watching.
You are watching Roll a Mile in My Shoes TV.
Have you ever forgiven someone for something that they did to you or someone in your family and it only backfired on you? Well, I'm pretty sure this is what the family of Martha McKay thought when she was found murdered in her home on March 25th, 2020. The house that you see here on the screen is known as the Snowden House. This house has been in the Snowden family for generations, and many, like Martha, had lived in this house or known it very well because it is a 3-story mansion located in the Horseshoe Lake community in Arkansas. This house has not only been lived in by generations of Snowdens, it now hosts engagement parties and wedding receptions, among many other things. But unfortunately, in 1996, this house was the first murder of Martha McKay's mother and her cousin, Lee Baker. They were found murdered by none other than 16-year-old Travis Lewis at the time. And then after this, he was charged and pled guilty to the murders, and he was ordered to serve 20 plus years in prison. And of those 20 plus years, he had to do at least 70% of his time, and then he could be up for parole. A lot of people, when they're released from prison or jail, they tend not to want to go back. So they try to live among society as a free person or on parole until they are deemed a free person. And Travis Lewis was doing very good at this. And he also had gotten a job at the Snowden House along with his mother Gladys, and he was doing pretty well at, being a contributing member to society until he wasn't. And due to this, Travis's mother, Gladys, informed Martha to stay away from him because he had returned to his old ways. Now, a lot of the fixtures at the Snowden house were, like chandeliers and things of that nature. And on one of these particular days, Martha had sold a chandelier for $10,000, and this was learned by her family after her death due to her diary that she had sold one of the chandeliers in the Snowden house for $10,000. And on that particular day, Travis was there when Martha came home with the money, and she stashed it in Snowden house, and this is what I believe led to her death. Now, remember, I had stated that Gladys, Travis's mother, who was the housekeeper at the Snowden's house, had told Martha a few days before her death to stay away from Travis because he had returned to his old ways. Now, if you ever go back to a lot of these shows and a lot of these movies that you watch, when the upper class people have housekeepers, a lot of these people will say that the housekeepers know more than we think they know because they have, access to listen to conversations that go on between these people and their families and even their friends when they visit the house. So they know more than we think they know. So I think that Travis's mother, Gladys, knew or may have suspected that Martha and Travis were more than, friends or employee slash employer, which, if you can kind of guess where I'm going with this, it was a little more something going on there. And maybe, when Gladys, Travis's mother, told Martha to stay away from him, she severed her ties after that. And Travis probably wasn't ready to give that up because, he had been in prison for so long. So he probably hadn't had, or I know he didn't have, any interaction with women other than the security guards and correctional officers that he would see on a day-to-day basis. But he didn't have any physical contact or intimate contact with them. And, with it being Arkansas around the time that it was, I'm pretty sure a lot of people still didn't approve of this if there would have, if word would have gotten out that there was something like this going on because, it's Arkansas and, it's, a few, individuals that are not approving of interracial relationships. And I'm not saying all people in Arkansas are like that, but, there are many people like that as there are in other states. And so when Travis, found out that Martha no longer wanted anything to do with him, he probably figured, okay, I know you have this money. And since you don't want anything to do with me anymore, I figure I'll just, rob you and, I'll go about my way and you don't have to deal with me anymore. But he didn't tell her this. So on March 25th, 2020, Martha was found stabbed and bludgeoned to death in her home by what police thought was an intruder. But little did they know this intruder, or so they thought it was none other than 39-year-old Travis Lewis. And I think that once he figured out, he remembered that, okay, she has this money stashed in the house. So he basically, came in. And since, he knew where everything was because he grew up on this property years before he went to prison. And his mother also worked, at this house. He came in and he, stole a couple of valuables. And he, I don't know if he intended to kill Martha, but he did in the process. And people found, or the police found when they came out to the scene and investigated, they found a bag of valuables on top of a chair that had a bloody knife inside of it, which is suspected to be the weapon that was used to kill Martha McKay. And to kind of add insult to injury here, this is the same man who killed Martha's mother just 23 years earlier. Now, I'm not sure what in his right mind made him think that, okay, I'm going to, kill the daughter after, I've killed the mother 23 years prior and I'll get away with it and nobody will be the wiser. But then I guess common sense kicked in and he figured, oh, I'm not going to get out of this one this time, even though I got out of the last one and I only had to serve 23 years. So after he bludgeoned and stabbed Martha to death, he figured, since I'm not going to get out of this one, there's only one way out. So hours later, after, investigators had, discovered Martha's body and processed the scene and did everything they had to do, they ended up pulling Travis Lewis, 39 years of age, out of the lake at Snowden House. And they figured that, okay, this is the man that did it, since he was connected to the family years earlier at the age of, 16, like I said, when he killed her mother and Lee Baker. Now, I don't know if what I stated previously is true or not, because, you'll never know these things, unless they're, published. But I think, that there was a little more going on there, and, Travis couldn't, cope with the fact that he had been dumped by, Martha, because, he probably had started to catch feelings. So in order to basically just make it a little easier on himself, he returned to what he knew. And I think before that, if she could have talked to him and not, let him knew that, she severed ties with him, she probably could have, gotten out of it a little easier by, just, making the situation a little easier on herself. Not saying that, it would have prevented her death, but, it probably wouldn't have, been so quick and so violent, because I don't even think she, had a, second thought that he would do that to her. But I have to say that, it's kind of weird that she would even, being a Buddhist, because that was her religion. And many people know that when you are a person of religion and faith, you tend to forgive people no matter how wrong they've done you or someone in your family over the span of your life, or even generations before. If you have the chance to forgive that person, which she did, you tend to do that. And, I think this is where the situation started when he was in prison and she forgave him. I think this, started there, which started out as a friendship, and then it went to something more. But I just don't think that she should have had this man that close to, her residence and, her home. I could see if you forgive someone and then you let it go, but you don't have to have any dealings with that person anymore, because, if you have that person around you or your family, things like this could happen, and not saying that she wouldn't have, came into contact with him, because let's face it, she probably would, because, his mother, Gladys, worked for the Snowden house, and she had done so for decades. And, I think, with her being his mother, she kind of knew something was going on with her son, or, going on between them. She probably didn't have any proof, but like I said, the housekeeper and the servants, they know a lot more than people think they know, because they, have ear to private conversations, even when people think they aren't listening. So I think that she should have kept her relationship that she had with him just, strictly to, okay, I forgive you, and that be that, and they go their separate ways. But for some reason, whatever it may be, she just couldn't and didn't do that. If you guys have any stories that you would like for me to do, please don't forget to leave them down in the comment section below. And as always, if you guys like this video, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one.